Good morning and welcome to our Bernstein Realty podcast. Today I am so excited to have one of our most energetic, enthusiastic, positive agents, Shelby Matthews, with us today.
Hello.
And Shelby's been with us for several years, and she brings such a smile and upbeat attitude and enthusiasm every day to her world, to the real estate business, and certainly to Bernstein Realty's office. So today I'm delighted to chat with her a little bit about real estate and just some topics that I think can be useful to our consumers. So Shelby, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Thank you for being here
Thanks
today.
Thanks for having me. I'm so honored.
Oh, I'm so happy you're here. Anyway, I wanted to chat with you a little bit about your real estate career because it has been fantastic. And I have to say it took me a while to lasso you over to Bernstein Realty, but once we got here, we're not letting you go. And so tell us a little bit about how long you've been in the real estate industry.
Sure. I have been in the real estate industry now for 7 years officially. So that's very exciting.
Yes.
Started my career out initially by hustling in the apartment locating side because I started my career right when Hurricane Harvey hit.
Wow.
And majority of
people
inventory was, underwater at
Yes.
that time, and mid-rise luxury apartments seemed to be the only thing that were in full effect at that time. So learned my industry with leasing then and just kind of stuck it through ever since.
And so when you do leasing, especially luxury leasing like you've been doing, and you do such a fantastic job with them, a lot of times, most of the time when it comes time for people to either want to move to another rental or to make a purchase, they've stayed in touch with you, you've stayed in touch with them, and then you're able to segue into helping them find their more permanent home, which is really nice.
Yes.
But back to the rentals, tell the consumers about just what a luxury rental is today. I know that you do individually owned properties, but you also do apartment communities. Tell us a little bit about the differences in the apartment communities and some of the things that they offer today that are exciting for people that either are going to a luxury rental for the long term or going to a luxury rental for the short term.
Right. So the two differences between apartment, locating and private residential leases primarily are property management with corporate property management companies that you're dealing with versus, perhaps a landlord or a choice of their property management that they decided to go with as well. So, you have amenities, you have the pool, you have anything and everything covered through property management. And also a beautiful thing, if it is a newer community, they're probably offering some type of incentive. 6 weeks, 1 month.
Wow.
3 months. It just depends what the occupancy is looking like at that time. So that's also a full effect, an advantage that a consumer can take on in that apartment world, right? And so it really just depends. I mean, that can be prorated down the time, and every single management company is different to the way that they will allow you to proceed with that. You can take the credit up front, or you can prolong it through your lease. So it's
nice.
really up to you on how you decipher your choices.
Nice.
Versus,
Individually owned.
Yes. So that's a little different. And there's so many different caveats that come around to it, of course. But I would say, what the market was years ago, what people thought, inflation is real. We're seeing properties that were once going, $1,900 to about $2,300. And
Wow.
that's not only just in the city, but it's also in the suburbs. But I feel like our world today has become more immune and adapted to those prices inflating.
Yes.
So it's not too much of an alarm these days, but I just want everyone to be,
That prices are going up.
aware.
Think about it, for the apartment owner or for the individual landlord, everything goes up for them too, right? I mean, insurance goes up, property taxes go up. So it has to roll over somewhere, so it lands with the tenant, right?
And then, just to throw this out there as well, and every single community is different. I feel like there's, a difference between residentially owned And then also condominiums as well. Those are huge and a little bit different from apartment locating as well. And I think sometimes people get those confused when they see them online, like HAR, whatever their circumstance may be. And so a lot of those times as well, you have what is an HOA, homeowners association, and sometimes water is included in that, sewer is included in that, but it's included into the base rent as well. So some people also like that advantage too.
So that's interesting. When you go and you escort your tenants to the properties and tell them what to look for and kind of be their eyes and ears, but tell us a little bit about some of the things that sometimes aren't always discussed that you have to make sure your client knows about, maybe like water or trash pickup or extra fee for parking. Tell us some of those charges.
Right. So first and foremost, we can start off with that luxury market once again. High rises, for example. I think a lot of people think, oh, cool, I can go ahead and I can get a high rise for $2,400. Hold on. That's a base rent, right? You're not even including the perhaps $100 to $200 fee that you're paying just for concierge services to have that.
So that's additional onto the rent.
In addition, and perhaps also that's going towards your complimentary valet as well.
Yes.
That's a huge advantage if they're offering that too.
Gotcha.
And then your amenity fees, which can range anywhere from $60 to $100 too. So it really just depends. And
so you have to be careful, and really, I think you should. The key is to go with somebody knowledgeable that can ask those questions for you,
Right.
so that you don't sign on the dotted line and then realize later that, oh my gosh, nobody told me. And they'll say, it's in the small print in the lease, but the person may not have read that lease.
Right,
So,
and you and I say this together, and I hear you say it often, I'm a big believer in it. Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is
of
power.
Course. And if we
Knowledge is power.
I love it. And so really just going in there ultimately and having those questions prepared and asking them, because I don't want to say this and everyone can think that this will happen for them, but you can go in there and you can negotiate your price point down. You can say, hey, well, this last place, they told me that I could pay, $35 for my amenity fees. Is there any way if I sign right here today, can you guys honor that? Right? So just reading every crossed T, every dotted I, at least once or twice. I'm a big believer in reading everything.
You have to read everything so that you don't miss the small print of where it says extra this and extra that. But I think mainly, in addition to reading, is to have somebody by your side that's knowledgeable and knows the tricks of the trade like you do,
Right.
is worth its weight in gold. And many times, our fee is paid by the apartment community.
Correct.
So for the tenant, why wouldn't somebody call Shelby Matthews and say, hey, I'm going out to find a rental, can you help me?
Right. It's really just an advantage to have a realtor represent you in apartment locating and taking it from there for you. It prevents a hassle at the end of the day. They can help you, through the application process, because we do it so much, right? We're able to say, hey, look, you're going to need these big statements, or if it's kind of a hectic, day for them or something, just kind of help make it easier and guide them through. And it's really the same thing ultimately with private leases as well. I send them, their truck application, which anyone over 18 has to legally complete. And I go over it, I take a hard copy with me, and I ask people, would you like a hard copy or would you like for me to email it to you?
Nice.
Whoever is more savvy with what they want to do, cool. But I like to go over it so their eyes have seen it at least one time with me.
Yes.
Right, and just kind of let them know this is what you're, receiving. Or
I've seen you over the years, and you treat people like you would want to be treated yourself.
Yes.
And that's and what I've also seen over the years in working with you is the client must always really appreciate your extra effort and comes back to you when they're ready to make a purchase.
And that's a huge honor.
So that is a privilege and honor, and the biggest compliment I always tell people when they say thank you after the transaction, I said, thank you, I appreciate it so much. And the biggest compliment you could give me is refer me to your family and friends.
Right.
And so that is the biggest compliment. So when you help people with these luxury rentals and sales, which areas is your sweet spot? Like, do you have a certain area, or is it safe to say that you will work all areas of Houston?
I will work all areas of Houston. I am not afraid of it. I'm a native Houstonian.
Nice.
So I love learning about my city. And there's so many different places that I'm taken to in real estate that I've already learned over the years.
Yes.
And I know the back ways to get there. And I have sometimes my own little history of stories that I can share with people. And I think it's just a really beautiful thing.
Nice.
But ultimately, Inner Loop, Cypress, Spring,
Gotcha.
as well, Katy, Texas.
Yes.
Pearland, slowly, surely, not as fluid as I am further west and
Got it.
further north and northwest and in the Loop area. But yes, anywhere and everywhere.
Anywhere and
You said
everywhere.
Garden Oaks is a great area. It's really up and coming, I would say. It's the closest thing to.
So tell us about inventory. Are you seeing that the inventory is greater if you go further out? Is it the same inner city versus in the suburbs? Tell us a little bit about inventory.
I think it's really dependent upon price point.
Gotcha.
I hate to say that.
No.
But it's really dependent on price point, and that really has an effect towards where the market's standing. If you have something that is, in a price point that's more affordable to everyone, of course it's going to be in high demand, right?
Sure.
Everyone
Sure,
wants
that makes sense.
supply. And versus something that, is in a higher price point, you're selecting a different type of clientele that will maybe take a little bit more time towards their purchase perhaps and
Gotcha.
do a little bit more due diligence.
Gotcha. So does the consumer have to be mindful of, when they're purchasing a house, they have to, a lot of times, if they're not paying cash, they will get a loan. So they have to be mindful of how they get qualified when they purchase a home. How about on a rental? What does a landlord look for with qualifications income-wise?
Yeah, so every landlord is different. Just want to disclose that.
Yes,
Everyone's
good.
different.
Yeah, good.
All requirements are different, and I'm just going to drop it from if you have a pet, that's a huge one. There's so many different ways that everyone has an approach there. So first and foremost, you'll fill out the application. You want to mark in there anything and everything accurately, right? Be
Yes.
honest in there. And then once that's received, some landlords request for, 3 times the rent, 2 times the rent for pay stubs. If you're independent, 1099, they'll ask for bank statements or your previous tax records as well.
Gotcha.
Haven't really had too many issues with tax records being requested more than anything. And then once those are reviewed, they will go through their screening process, which will go over a background and credit check.
Oh, wow.
And so once that background and credit check looks good, they'll be able to say yes or no, we would like to proceed, right?
Gotcha.
And
Does that happen pretty quickly? Like they can let people know?
I usually tell people the turnaround can be anywhere from 2 to 3 days to a week.
Okay.
That's usually what I like to say, because sometimes it can take 2 days just to get a response, or it can take at least 2 days for paperwork just to be submitted and reviewed. So I like to say 2 to 3 days. So once the contract has been executed, the lease agreement has been executed, they are going to pay their security deposit, any type of pet deposits
Gotcha.
that, are per the contract.
Sure.
And then your first month's rent as well, which will be, observed and taken care of prior,
Right.
who's made out to who. So those are ultimately the biggest things. And then you go ahead and you accommodate a day where, you and the landlord can have a meeting day.
Meet and greet.
Meet and greet,
And learn how
meeting day.
things operate and things like that, right?
Right, just kind of address, hey, I have some questions about this and that, exchange contact, etc. So that's ultimately the process for leasing a home.
Nice.
I have had some people, I will say this, can they do an inspection on the property, on a rental
Now,
property?
it's not a bad idea, actually. It's expensive.
It is, but if you feel in your heart and soul, this is what I say, if you feel it in your intuition that that's something you feel that needs to be done,
Yes.
I will certainly do my very best ability to make that happen for you, because it's nothing to just ask.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And request. And if they say no, well, then that's kind of questionable.
Right.
Right?
Right, exactly.
It's like,
It's a way to sniff the landlord out, too,
right?
right?
It's like, hello.
So the landlord interviewed you and you interviewed the landlord. So Shelby, with interest rates now having made a couple steps down this year and a lot more affordable, which is really exciting as a real estate salesperson, and there is rumor that interest rates are going to notch down a little bit before the end of the year as well. Are you seeing a lot of these renters that you've helped over the years call you and say, I want to jump into the buy market now?
So the past year, actually, this entire past year, I've had that happen with returning clients where they're coming, they're like, we want to buy now, just because they're unsure where the market was going to lead,
Yes.
right? So my advice to anyone and everyone that's thinking about purchasing a home and they're perhaps in the leasing market is, what is your financial situation? You know your financial situation better than I do.
Yes.
Right? I can only give you the ins and the outs and what we need to do to proceed.
Yes.
Right? So I think what I had seen over the last couple of months is more people were purchasing homes because they were unsure if we were going to go kind of back into how COVID times were,
Yes.
where 2.3% interest rates came in and everyone was fighting for supply and demand. And they're like, if I get my property now, pay a higher interest rate, then over time, I can go ahead and refinance when
Yes.
those rates do drop down.
Yes.
Which is ultimately what we're seeing now. They're slowly but surely dropping down. I think it would certainly be a great time to start entertaining your options into buying and kind of figuring out the location. So if you are in an apartment and you'd like to move into a larger space, whether that's starting out with a rental or looking at your options on how you can prepare to purchase a home. I mean, there's so many different ways and programs for first-time home buyers.
And do you have, when someone calls you and says, hey, I'm ready to buy, one of the first things I know I do is if they're unsure of their buying power, connect them with one of the many lenders that we use on a regular basis that can talk to them and give them all their options. I know you have those lenders.
I do, and I always fill out every person to see if I just know who to pair who with.
Yes.
Right? I feel like as us agents, we're kind of like Cupid in our own little way, but in business, or the business version of Cupid, and we can kind of tally who can go here and who can go here.
Because not every personality works with every personality.
For certain.
So when you know the personality of the lender, personality of the buyer, you can put the two together for sure. So how do people, I will say this about Shelby, she's got one of the best Instagram and Facebooks I've ever seen, and she's passionate about the real estate business. So before we close today, I want to invite people to find you on Facebook and find you on Instagram and connect with you on those two for sure. But I also wanted you to share with the consumers what you love about the real estate industry, because I know that you love it and I know the clients love you. So you want to share with us what some of your favorite things are about it?
Yeah, so first and foremost, some of my personal favorite things is the people that I meet. You can't take that away.
Yes.
I'm meeting so many types of people, and everyone has such a different background of life. And it's a beautiful journey to help them along their journey.
It's a gift.
I feel like it is a gift, and I feel like I'm living my purpose and believing that I can make it happen for them and help them make it happen. And you can't always help everyone, and I'm accepting towards that.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it's helping everyone. And like you said, it's the biggest compliment is when you help one person that you just may have met by showing them a house. And then next thing you know, years down the line, you watch them get married, have a baby, have a couple babies, help them and their family. And I think that's the biggest compliment. So just seeing growth and helping people with their growth just through the simplicity of one of the largest purchases, or just such a different journey of relocating to a new space is an honor.
That is one of the big gifts of our job.
It is.
And I say job, but it really is a career. Mm-hmm. It's a career. There are people that have a job and there are people that have a career. And there's a big difference between the two. I know on a personal note, I asked you to help some very, very dear friends of mine a few years ago. And every time I see them out and about, what's the first thing they say to me is, how is Shelby? How is Shelby? And they adore you. So I can tell you that you made an impact on them and their lives too, and you found them a wonderful place to live. So thank you for that. So in closing, if you would like to reach Shelby, you can find her on the Bernstein Realty website at www.bernsteinrealty.com, or you go directly to Shelby's Facebook and Instagram. And a lot of times Shelby, when she goes out and tours properties, will take videos of these properties to show you. It's kind of like where Shelby been today. Is that kind of how I look at her Facebook and Instagram. So Shelby, thank you so much for being here today. You are a doll. I love working with you. And if you want just to feel good and have great energy and you want to have someone along your side in the journey, Shelby is definitely the person to help you with that. So thank you so much for tuning in today, and we hope that you will tune in for future podcasts where we always bring you something new and exciting about real estate, and hope that you just gain a little bit of knowledge and a lot of excitement as you listen to the podcasts.
Let's get you a new home.